Second Syndicate. We are live on YouTube, on X, and on Facebook. We have a very, very special co-host with me today. We have Nick from Big Timber Lodge. So Teddy, my usual co-host and my buddy and my partner in this endeavor, is having way more fun than I am right now in Japan with his beautiful family. So Nick is going to sit in today with us. We have a very, very special guest. We have Marc from I68 Consulting. We are going to be talking about the importance of training, the misconceptions of training, all this horrific gun control that's going on in Colorado, and these training mandates, and as to why they suck and they will not help keep anybody safe. So let's talk about it. Welcome to the Second Syndicate, where the second is first. What do we got today, guys?
Well, hey, everybody. This is Nicholas Rogers with the Big Timber Lodge, coming back at you live from the Second Syndicate studio here with Spartan Defense. Super excited to be here. I know we have a lot to talk about. I know SB 25003 is on everybody's mind right now as we head into the Senate confirmation hearing for all of the amendments that the House made. I believe there was over 20 amendments that they put forth. Additionally, we did have a Republican senator that put some work into something today that I want to discuss with you, as well as discussing mandated training from the state versus individual on your own training, or going to a professional like Marc here and actually being trained, and the difference that it provides to that shooter.
Absolutely. So for everybody out there that's just tuning in, if you've never seen our show before, my name is Alicia Garcia. Everybody knows me as the Boomstick Babe here in Colorado. I am literally Colorado's bad girl of the 2A. And, of course, my friend Nick from Big Timber Lodge, he has his own YouTube channel. You should sign up and check him out. Hit the subscription and bell and support him. He's a great patriot here in Colorado, also fighting for our rights. And we have Marc. Marc runs a consulting group here in Colorado who does amazing training. He's actually a Green Beret. Is that correct?
It is.
All right.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Marc, and let everybody know who you are.
Well, so Alicia, Big Timber, thank you so much for having me on this show. I watch it. Before I tell you about myself, I just wanted to say I want to publicly commend Alicia, the Boomstick Babe, Big Timber, Spartan Defense. You guys are really the tip of the spear on this SB 25003 thing. And so I just want to publicly commend you for the work you're doing, because you're taking off your jobs. And so thank you for what you're doing for all of us here in Colorado. I am not a Colorado native. I'm a hillbilly from Virginia, but I actually retire from the Army next month.
Congratulations.
And we're partying, right?
Thank you. Say again. Oh,
we're partying, right?
Yes. Yes, you will see it. We're doing it. I'll do another plug. We're doing a Goat Patch Brewery. The owner of that is a former Ranger. I won't hold that against him, but he's allowing us to use the space for the retirement party. So thank you for what you're doing. My family and I are staying in Colorado, and we're happy to come alongside you in this fight. So,
it is not because we do it by ourselves. I want to make it very clear. We do it because we have support. We have people like you. We have people like you. We have everybody that's watching. We have my business partners, Teddy and Rose, Spartan Defense, our amazing media staff. We couldn't do it if we didn't have this community. And that's the whole point of the syndicate, is this is not one man above the team. It's everybody coming together to make a fist and be united and punch back.
Agreed. 100% agreed. So a little bit about me. I own I68 Consulting Group. We're a top tier defensive shooting company here in the Colorado Springs area. As Alicia said, I am a retiring Green Beret of 23 years. I grew up in 7th Special Forces Group down in Florida. And then it was time for me to take a knee after deploying and all the training we're doing so I could spend some family time. They moved me to Colorado. I'm not a beach person. I'm a mountain guy. And so we decided to stay here. I was lucky enough to go to 10th Special Forces Group. I'll be retiring as a Master Sergeant, and I've been honored to work with America's best and both 7th and 10th Group. I've deployed 10 times, obviously the Middle East, Central and South America, and Eastern Europe. And so I I started the company 8 years ago. Myself and all my instructors are special operations. We added it up. We were right around 127 years of special operations experience. So which means is we're a bunch of old guys. So a little bit broken probably. But with that said, we bring a lot of experience from all over the world, and we're bringing that training experience to Colorado Springs and the surrounding areas.
So what does special operations mean to lamos like
Okay.
me?
All right. Here's the lesson. So we have special operations, which is all your spec ops. So you have your combat controllers and PJs in the Air Force. They're special operations. You
What's a
have your
PJ?
Pararescue.
Pararescue, Air Force
Okay.
Pararescue. Thanks. Thanks for keeping me honest, Alicia. And so you got the Army Rangers. They're special operations. They're the premier light infantry. Oh, they're the premier light infantry. I see your priority past Big Timber. um, and then let's see what else. Obviously you got Navy SEALs with their beautiful hair, and got love for my SEALs. And then you have Army Special Forces. So Army Special Forces. They're the only special forces. They're the Green Berets. Think John Wayne. That's what I tell my older generation. We're John Wayne.
Okay.
And the Special Forces primary mission is called unconventional warfare.
Oh,
And what
yeah.
that means, when they were set up, they went off to Jedburghs with Colonel Aaron Bank. They were supposed to jump in behind enemy lines and raise up a indigenous or civilian populace, and then take over the government. Is kind of that's a very simplistic answer for what it is.
Cool.
So Green Berets are primarily trainers, is their core mission. So, the guys that come on to I68, we've done this for years and years and years. And a lot of times in different languages. Every Green Beret speaks another language. I used to be able to speak Spanish pretty good. But don't test me, Alicia. Don't embarrass me.
Just spell
but-
socks.
Yeah. But no,
SOCKS.
yeah, exactly. We bring that training experience to the civilian population, and we've had great success building impact, empowering people over the last 8 years. So for the last 8 years, over 70% of our clients have been women. And then the guys, they want to train like SF guys. So we've had those two type of clients come through and join the I68 family.
Well, I'm a woman who wants to train like a SF guy.
Well, we're gonna get it. All right.
I literally want like a life skill that I've always wanted is like I want to be able to rip somebody's tongue out of their face and just be like, like an old Japanese kung fu flick.
You're
Dalton
definitely
from,
signing a waiver.
What was that movie? Roadhouse. Dalton,
Yeah.
where he rips the guy's
yeah.
throat out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite movies of all time is Bloodsport.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I literally
Absolutely.
watch Bloodsport once a week. I do. I don't. I'm not a chick flick chick. I watch if I want the gangster shit and I want the murderous shit.
Okay.
I will tell you, I had the biggest dad moment of my life. So I have an 8-year-old. I have a 14-year-old daughter, a 10-year-old daughter, and an 8-year-old son. And he comes to me and goes, "Dad, will you watch Predator with me?" I said, "Absolutely." And so we watched it together. That was one of my deployment movies, and it was one of the best times. Like, let's watch Predators.
I
Now
love
he's all-
stuff like that.
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's kind of crazy hearing your background and like what your dossier is filled with. The fact that the state Democrats say that you aren't qualified to purchase a firearm, even with that extensive background.
Indeed. Let's get into it. So we will be live streaming tomorrow, myself and also Big Timber on his channel. Your freedom of choice there. But Senate Bill 25003 is on the Senate floor tomorrow. And this is supposedly the last time that this is going to be debated before it goes to the governor's desk for signature or no signature, or just to let it sit there and let it pass. So one of the aspects of this bill, and keep in mind, people, I know we're harping on Senate Bill 25003, but there's plenty of other gun control out there that's also like a death by 1,000 cuts. So they're literally hitting us from all different angles. But one of the biggest and most insulting things about Senate Bill 25003 is saying that the state, in addition to changing the concealed carry laws that they changed last year, they go into effect July 1st of this year. They're now saying you also have to have permission and training to just even purchase a firearm. So you're asking permission to exercise a human and civil right. So they're saying people like myself, I'm a firearms instructor. I've been an instructor for a while now. People like Marc, who this is what he knows, right? This is his language, that they still need to ask permission from Uncle Sam and the Department of Wildlife to say, hey, you know what, we feel that you should have the ability for us to exercise discretion of whether we want you to have a gun or not. And that terrifies me for the simple fact that if people look me up on paper, okay, because right now Colorado is a shall issue state, right? So it says if I want a concealed handgun permit, which by the way, I also believe is an infringement, I shouldn't have to ask permission to carry a firearm and protect myself, but it's saying at least the state is just an administrator. They rubber stamp it and they process the paperwork. They can't exercise discretion to say, hey, you know what? We have a bias because your name is Alicia Garcia and we don't want you because we don't like brown people and we don't want brown people having guns and you're a woman. That this would empower the sheriff's department to be able to say, you know what? Let me look this chick up. Let me look her on the internet. Oh, look at this little broad. She is a loudmouth, gun-toting, rebel hippie person. I don't want her being able to have guns. So I'm going to rubber stamp and deny her. And they're within their power to do that because, of course, the state is empowering them to exercise discretion on us. In addition to say, now we feel that you have to have training certificates from the Department of Wildlife saying that you took this X type of training to buy a gun. You want to elaborate on that?
Well, yeah. So there's a couple of major issues here with civil rights violations with SB 25003. One of them goes in congruence with the training where there's a more stringent requirement for you to pass a test with a 90% accuracy or better in order to be able to even start the process of the background check. So to get your conceal and carry license in the state of Colorado, it's only an 80% or better to pass your test. They're saying to be able to just purchase a firearm, you will have to pass the test with a 90% or higher. And then we're getting into another civil right infraction, which is going from a shall issue, which has been deemed in the Helen and Brewer cases, they have to allow you to exercise your Second Amendment right as long as you're not a criminal. And that's across the nation, right? That's where we saw a lot of state conceal and carry permits changed from may issues to shall issues, and it caused a major uproar all over the nation in these deep blue states. And they put a may issue discretionary clause for the sheriffs of the county that you live in into the Colorado firearms owner identification portion. So after you get your background check done and you're fingerprinted, then it's up to the sheriff of the county that you live in to look into your history, not necessarily at things that would disqualify you from purchasing a firearm because you're not a felon, you don't have a domestic violence charge, you were, not dishonorably discharged from the military. You should be able to buy a firearm, but it allows them to start digging into your history in whatever means they feel is necessary. And then they can use that information to decide if they want to grant you your COID card. Now, also, this is something that I had a viewer reach out to me today about, and they sent me an email saying, hey, if they find something in my past that is a non-qualifier, and they
on
say,
their opinion,
right? On their opinion, could they then use that
to red flag you?
To red flag you with an emergency or an extreme risk protection order. And I said, let me reach out to somebody that I know, because I have a viewer that is actually a retired 32-year Denver police officer, and he was actually on the very first successful red flag law case in the state of Colorado. Don't judge him for that. I know the history of the story, and it was a valid case for them to actually do this because it was brought forth by the police department, and the man was a threat to himself and to his wife. However, I said, let me ask this gentleman about that. And I submitted the email over to him, and he said, absolutely. If they find a non-qualifier for you to be able to purchase firearms, it will give them the ability to say that's also a non-qualifier for you to be able to own firearms. So this is opening Pandora's box.
Oh yeah, it is.
Well, the actual term has always been used as a slippery slope. It's exactly what it is. And as we talked before, what scares me the most is, like, even if they pass this, it's eventually going to be shown unconstitutional. It might be 2 years, 5, whatever it is. My biggest worry, what keeps me up at night, is the potential victims that can't protect themselves.
Indeed.
Like we'll be okay. We'll continue to fight it, but we can still train. We can still protect ourselves because we're before the law. For example, I have a client right now. This person has a restraining order against somebody else. That person is not going by that piece of paper. So what she do? She went to buy a firearm, and then she's coming to us for training. She's training with us next week.
And the issue with that is a 3-day waiting period too.
Exactly.
Which that's my case, by the way, Garcia versus Polis. Hey.
Good for you. Yes. And so with that said, especially with this new law, because, and correct me if I'm wrong, they haven't said how long is it going to take, how much is it going to cost. And so with that said, is this person has to live in fear because she can't exercise her rights to protect herself and her loved ones. And that's the whole point of the whole thing.
So one thing I want to say about red flag laws that I really want people to emphasize to the community is coming and bypassing someone's due process. So if you're out there in YouTube land or X land and you're listening and you don't know what we're talking about, Colorado since 2019 started what we call our extreme risk protection orders, which are also known as red flag laws. It empowers law enforcement, teachers, medical professionals, and people you live with and or spouses to be able to file a case against you with law enforcement and say, we feel this person is a harm to themselves or others. They then can have an emergency hearing with a judge or magistrate and serve you papers. You're going to have the popo come rat-a-tat-tatting on your door and confiscate all your firearms and ammunition, give you a court date, and then it is up to you, the respondent, to prove that indeed you are not a harm to yourself or others. And the problem with that is, one, like I said, it's bypassing your due process. Second, they've already passed civil asset forfeiture, which if they deem the guns that they confiscate illegal, because they're passing these laws that deem these types of firearms illegal, they don't ever have the reason to give your gun back to you, because they're going to be like, oh, well, this gun's illegal now. What's going to say that they're not going to keep it and use that money to sell it or fund the police department? And 3, it doesn't stop anybody from physically harming another person. So if someone is truly a danger to themselves or others, you should be calling the law enforcement and getting a 72-hour hold on that physical person to physically stop them. Because I'm going to tell you right now, evil doesn't wait. So if I want to, if I go crazy and I want to hurt somebody, taking my guns and ammunition isn't going to stop me. I can go downtown and meet up with the cartel or rob somebody and take their weapons, or just hit them with my car or a bat or machete or any of those things. So they're still physically able to commit violence.
Absolutely. And actually talking with my viewer that's retired from the Denver Police Department, he told me that people can do like a judicial appeal for a red flag case, right? And in the state of Colorado, you will get, let's say, deranged exes that will call the police and say, hey, my ex is threatening to kill himself or kill me. And then they'll execute a red flag case against you. And those types of cases, when you do the judicial appeal, you actually have a good chance of getting them overturned. However, he is unaware, and I am unaware, of any time that a red flag law has been instigated or started by a law enforcement officer that it's ever been overturned in the state of Colorado.
That's bad.
Which would mean if a law enforcement department, the sheriff's office, said, hey, we don't think you should be able to purchase these firearms, nor do we think you should be able to own a firearm, and they submitted that information to a judge, and that judge reviewed it and said, okay, and because you can request a judicial appeal, good luck trying to get that judge to overturn what that law enforcement officer said.
And who's to say that that law enforcement officer doesn't exercise bias against you because of who you are to them, or the perspective that they have of you as, right, the may issue perspective.
Absolutely.
Law enforcement officers are human too.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
You know.
Well, it's something that I talk about because I was stationed in California before I was stationed here in Colorado. And in California during that time, they had may issue conceal and carry licenses. Conceal and carry license in California had no reciprocity over the state. It was, you got issued it by the county, and other counties might respect your conceal and carry license, but then there would be other counties that wouldn't. You could get your conceal and carry license in California, and let's say Northern California, where the sheriff's departments were more pro 2A, and they're like, hey, you're not a criminal, here's your conceal and carry license. But down in Santa Barbara County where I lived, the sheriff was like, unless you're a politician or unless you're a celebrity, I will not give you a conceal and carry license. And not only that, if you have a conceal and carry license from up north and we catch you conceal and carrying in Santa Barbara County, it's a felony.
That's disgusting. And this is the problem that we have because, you know, going into the training aspect, one of the questions that we wanted to elaborate here with you, Mark, is when they mandate training like this, I think it has the opposite effect. It encourages people to think that that's all the training that you need, when that's erroneous. When I teach my concealed carry classes, the first thing I tell my students is laws are not moral, and moral isn't always legal. And this is a journey. It's not, a box to check. You need to at least take 4 classes a year. And you should be all taking 4 classes a year. You should be taking a draw from concealment class where you're actually presenting a firearm from concealment under duress. You should be taking a medical class. You should be taking a maintenance class, and you should be taking a actual live fire training. If you haven't had it yet, you shouldn't just be waiting to get your concealed carry. So now with these new laws, they're saying, okay, even though Alicia, as a firearms instructor, you train all the time, you shoot all the time, you have all these certificates and do all this stuff, we need you to still prove it to us as the state to say, you know what, maybe we want you to be able to train. And the problem with that is there's going to be little access to trainers. I think it's right now, it's like for every 500 people, there's one firearms instructor. So the ability to get in these classes is going to push that timeline out for people, which a right delayed is a right denied, right? So now people who are in duress or need these firearms, who are in situations like your student that have somebody who's actively seeking harm on them, the state is like, but you need to do this, but you need to do that. It's not that urgent unless we say so.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, no. Yeah. Now, and granted, obviously you should train all the time. That is one of the things. But however, the state mandating it. Who's the expert you're going to mandate what's the standards of training? What is these standards of training that some politicians want to? I put my daughter, my 14-year-old daughter, went to hunter safety course. She didn't learn how to shoot.
No,
she shot, but it wasn't. And when we teach concealed carry, I don't teach a concealed carry course. I teach a defensive shooting course. And that's why in our pistol fundamentals course, that it's a 2-day course where we do a 4 to 5 hour academic portion on a Tuesday night. And then you come to range day on Saturday. And in our course, you're shooting at least 150 rounds. We're deep diving into every fundamental of shooting, defensive shooting. And then you're learning how to draw from a holster, because Mark's policy is, Alicia, if I give you a training certificate to take to, El Paso County Sheriff and saying, hey, I want to conceal carry to protect myself and my loved ones. I need to have that good foundation of 1, how to properly shoot, and 2, how to draw from a holster. Yeah. And most importantly, safely reholster that firearm. Yeah. And so, my standards, my company standards are extremely high. It passes the verified instructor standards. It passes the NRA standards. But that's because we're a company full of Green Berets.
That's wonderful.
And so with that said, and we go to the standard, is it the post exam? 23 rounds. I love law enforcement. I couldn't do their job. I admit that. I am, at least here in El Paso County, the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, the CSPD officers. I've had nothing but respect. Highly professional organizations.
Shout out to
However,
Carter Martinson for the super chat. Woo woo! Round of applause.
Yeah, sorry, Mark. Mark, we also got
oh,
to. Yeah. Go ahead, Mark.
no, yeah. And
No,
so
we,
a 23 round post exam, is that really your standard?
And that's misleading to the public, because now people that don't have firearms experience are thinking, well, this is enough because the state says so. So that's all I'm going to do, rather than, no, honey, this is a journey. You need to work on this for quite some time. So when I first became a firearms instructor, like a certified instructor with a certificate and all that jazz, after I took the class, first of all, my training experience was awful. My instructor was awful. He was such a drunk that his eyes were jaundice, like he was yellow. And he didn't even watch us qualify. Luckily, we had other people there that were NRA people that could watch us qualify and actually shoot, so we could get our certificates and keep it moving. But the quality was low. And I said, okay, I'm not in a position where I can take people and teach them how to defend themselves and others with the firearm that's concealed in their body and be reactive to a threat. The difference between law enforcement and civilian armed people is law enforcement is actively and proactively assessing threats.
right.
If you are a civilian, you are already behind the eight ball because you're reactive to a threat. So which means something's already happening. You have less time and more stress to act in. So
You never rise to the occasion. You fall to the ability of your training.
exactly. And you are always regressing to your lowest form of training. So how you behave under duress is what you're really training yourself to do on range. So if you have an instructor who's not constantly stressing you out, like I had a student this week and he was like, well, I'm not shooting good because you're here. Well, good. Because guess what? This is how you're going to shoot when everybody's there. But somebody has a gun to your head or is trying to kidnap your child or, rob you at gunpoint. That's how you behave under duress. So if you can't focus under duress, then you need to keep working on it.
Do you think with this training course they're going to be, presenting the students with modern AR-15s and like Sega 12s and semi-automatic shotguns? Like, what's the purpose of this training class? Like, because realistically, the more technology that comes out with firearms, the safer they actually are. They're more lethal, but they're also safer for the user.
Yes.
It's like
For the most part,
it's like
depending on
the
the
old
brand.
adage, I don't want to pull it out on camera, but a sharp knife is a safe knife, right? Compared to a dull knife. And with modern firearms with newer technology, they're safer for the users. Now, that's my question is what's the purpose of this training if all you're doing is just certifying people to be able to make purchases? Is it going to be to instruct them on, hey, this is the new Gucci shit coming down the line. This is what you should be looking for. Are we going to get to do like a giggle switch demonstration at the range with the state? Like, hey, this is what a force reset trigger feels like. What's going on with this?
First of all, thank you to Pin King for the super chat. We really appreciate it. Round of applause for you. So
What's
if
up,
you guys
brother?
don't understand, when we receive super chats like this, it helps us put that money back into the coffers to continue to promote and educate people in the Second Amendment movement, especially through the Second Syndicate. We're doing our best to be that grassroots 2A resource for Colorado for people to come to and unite our community. So literally, if you donate 5 cents, or $500 or $5,000, every cent counts. So thank you for that. But what you were saying is very true. Like, when it comes to the firearms and the technology that they're out here, they're not wanting to elaborate that because, one, these people don't know what they're talking about anyway. You have people mandating training who don't even speak this language.
Agreed.
They don't buy guns. They don't shop for guns. They don't live a strapped and armed lifestyle. So you're asking people with no knowledge to dictate to the people like us that live this life and curtail our expertise.
Right. So we just had a comment in here from Leslie Hollywood saying the purpose of the training is because it will include lots of Everytown and Bloomberg propaganda, and that's I agree with that, and I think that that's one of the reasons why they're putting a 90% pass rate or higher.
Hi, Leslie.
On the test. What's up, Leslie? And I think there's probably going to be a lot of indoctrination with this training, as well as questions on the test that will go against your personal beliefs, your morality, where they're going to be like, you shouldn't use a firearm to defend yourself because why? And it's like, bull crap, I should be able to, but you're going to have to, support the Colorado defense in order to get your license.
Yes, thank you so much. And that's for you, Mark. We had Alex say, I'm only paying for a super chat to make fun of Mark's shiny head.
My man, Alex.
Alex Scott.
I'll take Alex is we call him an I68 elite graduate. He has taken every I68 course we've had. So
awesome.
yeah. Thanks,
Thank
Alex.
you, Alex.
Appreciate it. You drive a Subaru though.
Does he listen to Melissa Etheridge?
He's the most deadly Subaru driver there is.
Okay.
But
come to my window.
Yeah. but here's the next thing is what's the test? Because when I went through El Paso County to do my verified instructor certification, I had to make up my own test.
Yeah.
And have it verified. So, before I used the NRA test, because I'm an NRA instructor. And so, with the additions to the test, like the different, we had to test on the different laws. Who is making this test? Am I making this test? Or are you, Elisa, or you, Timber, or whoever's out there? Is they've gotten the cart before the horse on this whole thing. And it's so unorganized.
Right.
And it's ineffective. Their arguments are not logical in any way, shape, or form. They don't know what real training is, and they can't even define how this training helps people.
Well, one of the things that was very, very severe to me when it came to the new concealed carry laws that go in effect on July 1st is we are now, as instructors, required by the state to talk about safe storage, to talk about red flags, to talk about all of these supported, mandated things. And here's the problem with that. They want us to use these talking points to promote these things. I don't believe in any of that. Do I believe in safe storage of firearms?
Right.
Absolutely. Do I believe it's the government's place to dictate to me what that looks like? Absolutely not. Do I believe in red flag laws? Hell no. Why? Because to me, dead rapists don't reoffend.
Facts, girlfriend.
So why am I going to sit here, and be like, okay, let's red flag somebody who's a danger to themselves or others? Well, for the most part, when it comes to suicide, we should be giving people other resources because they can heal themselves. Mental health it's a temporary thing. It's not a forever thing. And that's a community issue. And Colorado is 47th out of 50 when it comes to mental health resources. But we're 6th in the nation for gun control laws.
Right.
So what does that say? It says we want to impose more laws on people than actually give them resources for help to heal themselves. And that's our job as this community, is to help our fellow man, to educate and encourage those things. And I have a whole bunch of companies, I won't plug them or anything, but you guys are more than welcome to reach out to me, that give safe storage options without the influence of government, which is that's what we want, right?
Yep.
But when it comes to me teaching my class, they're mandating me to say, you have to do this and you have to do that. I don't believe in that, because if when I was a child, I had access to the guns. I had access to the guns at 8 years old. And you want to know why? Because I lived at my grandma and grandpa's house. And if somebody came in that house, I have a right to defend myself. I have a right to stay alive. And I knew how to use it.
And if you're a good instructor, you're teaching that anyway.
Yeah.
Why does the government have to mandate that? If you're a quality instructor, especially, I got 3 kids and I teach a lot of parents, like, this is something that you teach anyway. Yeah. I teach that my daughter, my 14-year-old daughter, who can shoot, and she knows how to safely and effectively carry a firearm. she's trained, but she's not authorized to touch her firearms without dad's permission. And that's what every quality instructor should be doing anyway.
I did a video I think last year or two, talking about, yay, Alex the Truck and Jeff Benjamin. Whoop, whoop. You guys are so amazing. Thank you so much for supporting us. It really means a lot to us. It really does. Thank you very much. But I did a video about safe storage, right? About somebody comes in your house, kicks the door in. Do you train running from that door to get into that safe and biometrically see how quickly you can or punch the code in, grab that firearm, and get on target?
Right.
While someone's chasing you or shooting at you?
Yeah.
They're not talking about this. And these are the types of things and topics that we as instructors are pushing in that education. But there's so much misconception and misinformation and propaganda by the news and by the leftists saying, hey, you know what? Guns and ammo should be stored separately. What the hell kind of gun doesn't need ammo? Why the hell am I going to tell the guy who's trying to kidnap our kid in the house to say, hold up, homie, let me go in the other room and stack my mag real quick?
Right.
Yeah.
It's a different time. Let's be honest. It's a different time because like my grandparents, when I was 5 years old down in Texas, they're like, hey, we're noticing that you're starting to admire the firearms we just have laying around the house.
Yeah.
Grandfather's like, let's go out and shoot the single shot 410 when I was 5, right? Scared the
Good
shit out of me. And then when I was 6, they called it the babysitter. They put a lawn chair out underneath the big pecan tree, put me in the lawn chair with the single shot 410 and said, shoot a blue jay if it comes by. They never came by. But I sat there all day long. But it was also a time where like my grandparents had guns underneath their pillows and that seems very strange to folks these days to hear that. But there was never an accidental shooting in my grandparents' house, and they had dozens of grandchildren and great grandchildren coming through their homes at all times, but they taught good firearm safety to all of us.
All about education.
Well,
absolutely.
It is. It absolutely is. I was raised that guns are a way of life. Like I lived in the city, but on the weekends, I was always with my grandma and my grandpa and my aunts and my uncles in Honey, Colorado and Trinidad, Colorado. My grandfather was the retired fire chief of our entire town. We had a CB radio in the kitchen. We heard everything that's going on. So you know when there's danger, you know where those things. And that was a time when people talked to each other and you had community and you knew firearm safety. There was no risk of us wanting to hurt each other because we knew that those things were for defense. Thank you so much, Matthew. That was really awesome. Thank you so much for that super chat. Round of applause.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
community had a different definition when we grew up than it does today.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And people aren't talking to their neighbors. People don't know who they're living next to. They're so disenchanted with personality and personalness that they think, oh, look at me, I'm on my phone. I have millions of followers and millions of friends, but you can't hold a personal conversation. You still can't go next to your neighbor's house and knock on the door and tell them to turn the radio down without even calling the cops.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, people don't have de-escalation. They don't understand conflict resolution. They don't understand the need to exercise that. People go from 0 to 60 over the most minor things. And the irony is, it's usually the left that are promoting violence. They're the ones that are calling for President Trump's head.
Look at Tesla. Firebombs.
Things
How many
like
people
that.
have been arrested for bombing Tesla places right now?
Yes.
It's mostly peaceful protesting, though, right? Isn't that what they call it?
Talking about more of this training, one of the things that I wanted to talk about as well is the mass-produced instructors out there, right? So right now, the industry, let's talk about it. The industry has a problem with mass-producing firearms instructors. I don't even like to call myself a firearms instructor because it's like, you went to a seminar, they taught you a marketing plan, they gave you this, and it's like, hey, go teach people to, save their lives, which isn't true. I made sure for years and years and years that I had more trigger time to make sure that I still was staying a student before I could teach people, right? You have to first learn to be taught before you can teach. And I was told that Marc existed, right? we have a lot of mutual friends in this industry, and they're like, hey, you should know Mark and this and this and that. And, Mark you guys should know each other and he'd love to be on the show. And I was like, I want to see him first. I want to see his training. I want to know who he is because we have a standard of excellence, right? I don't want to just have Joe Blow who just got his, XX certified instructor certificate, and now he thinks he's going to teach people how to run a pistol defensively out of concealment. And then when I had a talk with Mark, it was like, yeah, this is a good guy. He knows what he's talking about. He understands what it means to stay a student, because that's what we really need in this industry, is to get away from this idea that that's all you need is a certificate. You actually need to be able to perform, and you need to be able to show that you can demonstrate and have the patience and the wherewithal to anticipate the needs of your students. So talk to us, Mark, as an instructor and someone who's done this for so long. What are some things for people out there that's saying, okay, how do I shop for a real instructor? What are the things that I'm looking for?
Right. Yeah, Emily Rose, and this is going to touch on you, sir, because you're active duty right now, and she's a veteran. She says, if placed on a red flag, is there a process for notification? I ask because a lot of us veterans, she's a combat veteran, I know her, are concerned about being red flagged for PTSD without our knowledge.
Well, what's going to happen is a cop's going to show up at your door and knock on your door and confiscate your firearms and ammunition within 72 hours of you being red flagged. Period.
Yeah, that is a big concern in the veteran communities. It's a concern for me because it seems that the legislature likes to change definitions of what that is.
Right.
Okay, maybe I've been to combat. I have PTSD. I have operator syndrome, but I'm also in behavioral health. Not because I'm crazy, but it's for well-being.
Yeah.
Right.
And thank God for her, and
shout out to Emily. You're awesome, Emily.
Yeah, great question, Emily. So that is a big concern. Right. We talked about the slippery slope before, and now where does this go to? And so that your answer is as good as mine, because mine is I have no idea.
Well, yeah, and also too, I mean, we sat there and listened to that soy boy beta cuck Tom Sullivan say veterans shouldn't be able to own firearms when they get out of the military. And for a couple of reasons, because he said veterans are more likely to commit suicide with the firearm than non-veterans, but also he accused us of taking advantage of if they would have given us an exemption, if you were honorably discharged or retired from the military, they proposed an amendment saying that veterans shouldn't have to get this COID card. And he said veterans in Colorado would take advantage of that exemption and sell them to regular Coloradans illegally in parking lots.
I can't stand that son of a gun. Yeah. I really can't.
Yeah, that's slander. I think there should be a class action
very disrespectful.
Civil rights lawsuit against that dude.
You shouldn't be able to teach. Like, I don't think people understand what military goes through. Like, they're literally sacrificing their limbs, their livelihood, their mental health, not seeing their kids grow, being away from their loved ones, to live in shit scenarios and stress for our freedoms, and then to come home and have somebody who's never experienced that type of stress. Not saying that his loss isn't valid, but it's not valid enough to gamble with the safety of my life or my family's.
Maybe Colorado veterans would have better mental health if the state put money into veterans versus illegals.
Isn't that what that 6.5% tax goes in on money is supposed to support?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that tax. I'm going to be 100 with it. People need to learn government. People need to learn how this process really works, because this is how they gaslight you into supporting gun control. Shout out to that cuck Monica Duran, because I can't stand this broad, who she is the originator of this bill, who always, with her horrible hair, by the way, it's shitty. She shows up and she's like, I'm a gun owner and I feel this is okay, because this 6.5 excise tax was designed to help people coming from domestic violence situations or veterans who need mental health. Right. That's not how this works. They could tell you it's for unicorn farts and Care Bears for everyone when they're born to get one. It doesn't matter what they tell you. Anytime there's a tax, it goes into a general fund.
Right.
And once the bureaucrats decide what they want to do with that money, that's where that money goes. And the truth is, Jared Polis has his grubby little hands on that money already. We've already heard it from one of our Republican senators saying he wants that money to put into a personnel fund to do what? Hire more bureaucrats so he can have a line of these assembly line communist, socialist, gun grabbers ready to keep it moving.
They're fascist is what they are. You're allowed to have a business. You're allowed to own property, but the state is going to tell you what to do with it.
So they're taking money off of us to build more of an infringement on us. We're paying for our bootlicking, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Fuck Tom Sullivan, Ron Goldberg.
Ron Goldberg.
I love you,
Amen to
Tom
that.
Sullivan. Not.
Right.
Not.
Well, it's an interesting thing too, because with the sin tax, right? I talked with a firearms attorney here in the state of Colorado, because I'm also down the path of getting a civil rights grievance against the state if SB 25003 goes into effect as a law, and it'll be a class action lawsuit. And I spoke with an attorney about it, and he says there's a lot of stuff, not necessarily with the weapons ban that's a civil rights issue, but with the COID card portion, the firearms owner identification portion, that will be considered civil rights grievances. But when we were having the discussion, I said, can we also throw into the lawsuit the sin tax, the 6.5% sin tax? And he said, unfortunately, due to the Pittman-Roberts Act of 1937, there is a federal tax on fully assembled firearms and bows and arrows of 11%, and that has never been challenged at a federal level. And because we voted on it as a state, there is precedent because of it at the federal level, and we would need to challenge it federally before we could then go after it on a state level.
So I have one comment on that, and then I want to ask you that question, Mark, about how to choose a quality firearms instructor. But we were talking about this today. Shout out to Ethan here at Spartan Defense. God bless that guy. We have an amazing team over here. We have so many people working to keep this show going. But we were looking it up, and when we had the Boston Tea Party, it was over a 2% tax. And right now, this is a 6.5% excise tax in addition to the state tax, the federal tax, the county taxes, the Pittman and Robertson taxes. So a $500 gun is now going to be more like a $730 to $740 gun.
Yep.
And that's not including training. That's not including gear or ammunition or ear pro and eye pro or any of those things. So this is another way for them to impose more racist and bias and bigotry-based laws to prevent people from owning firearms.
Right. There was a great video that I watched last night. I shared with some of my viewers and my mods for my channel. It was on X, and it was about Denver, right? And it was about Colorado, and they were talking about Polis explicitly and his love of creating enterprises to be able to skirt the Tabor Act, right? And that's our tax-paying, Bill of Rights is what Tabor is. And they were talking about before Polis, like 2/3 of what we paid into the state were considered taxes, and we received some of that money back. And now, since Polis has been the governor, less than 1/3 of what we are paying is considered a tax. It's considered a fee, which falls underneath the enterprise, and which means it's not subject to Tabor, which is exactly what the COID stuff is going to be. Because when I first heard about this, I'm like, this is a tax, right? They can't create a tax. And then Base Snacker was like, well, we can't create a tax. This is an enterprise. This is a fee. That's just semantics. You are literally just changing the words around because you have the legislative power to do so. And you're pissing down my back and telling me it's raining is what's going on here.
And rain ain't warm like that.
I will tell you this. I'm going through this. So we're building the I68 training facility, and I haven't even moved a grain of dirt yet. And the fees that I've had to pay to go through the El Paso County process, astronomical.
So tell us more about your training facility that you're building, because I heard when he told me about this, I'm like, this is going to be Colorado's version of Disneyland for gun runners, and I love everything about it.
That is the vision. So, as in preparation for, actually, I'm going to go back to your earlier question about trainers, and then I'll come to the full
So the
circle
question
here.
that I asked Mark was, how do people out there know that they're getting a quality firearms instructor, not just one of these assembly line instructors? What are the things that the people should be looking for?
Yeah, I think the first thing that they should look at is experience. What have they done? You don't have to be a Green Beret to be a good firearms instructor. What is a guy a veteran, former law enforcement? Are they a competition shooter? But also, even before then, you need to know what type of training do you want? Do you want to learn to go be a competition shooter? Do you want to learn defensive shooting, protect yourself and your loved ones? You have to make that decision of why you're getting firearms training. And so, in whatever sphere you're looking at, you want what's that experience. And so that's the first thing is have they been a firearms instructor for the last 15? You mentioned the older gentleman who might not be able to run around the range. And with that said, experience of the company, the type of course they're offered, and what you get out of that course. Are you going to go and shoot 20 rounds? And you're good to go? Is that really defensive shooting training? Marc's opinion is not.
Right.
That's not a good foundation. And then, with that said, then deep dive into those instructors and say, hey, are these guys like, hey, I did all this stuff, I'm good? Or are they continuing to train? Are they continuing to innovate with their training curriculums? Like, for example, I've shot thousands upon thousands of rounds. I've gone to combat, so have all my instructors. However, I still study Mike Pannone out of CTT Solutions. I study Ben Stoger, who is an amazing competition shooter. Amazing. He's a jerk, but he's awesome. I love Ben. He's really great. And I'll give you a practical example. And so when we shoot through a dot, right, we're target focused, right? When I switched over from iron sights to a dot, it took me 9 months of hard dry fire work to get it. And I'm still not great at it. I'm still working at it.
I still suck at a dot.
Oh,
I'm still old school irons all day.
I shot iron sights for 15 years. Well, what they're innovating to now is that even with iron sights, you're going to target focus versus the old school front sight post focus. And I've been working on. I don't teach it yet because if I can't do it, I'm not going to teach it. And then when you do look at your instructors, do you see? I'm thinking social media is a thing now. Are they showing their training? All the instructors show every single drill, and do they show their misses? That's my big thing. Their misses, or are they Instagram guys?
Yes.
So you look at me shoot. I'll have some misses because what that tells me as an instructor is that if you'll show your misses, you're showing that you're actually training too.
Yeah.
Because training never stops, and that's one reason in my company we have the I68 events. We have our women's only I68 Valkyries event. We started our men's only I68 Aries event. We do family events. It does one of two things, because not everybody thinks about shooting like we do.
Yep.
Life happens. But these events is where they can come together as community. They get training. We have a big barbecue afterwards or a social afterwards. So we're building that community, but they're getting training, and it gets them onto the range working with I68 instructors. And so that's how my company facilitates, training for the I68 family.
What do you feel are the biggest constraints for people who are new to firearms and want to get training that prevents them from getting that training? And how do we as a community help encourage that training?
The biggest constraint, other than the laws,
Touche.
I think it's getting over that initial fear. I mentioned before that 70% of our clients have been women. Probably about, I would say 50% of those over the last 8 years have been brand new to firearms. Absolutely. Marc, I've never shot a gun in my entire life. Man, you are a type of client. You're my type of student. Let's do this.
No training scars.
Yeah. And so I think the initial fear of it, is probably the biggest constraint. And then even though the information is all out there, a lot of people don't know where to look, especially these brand new shooters. For example, I have a client. She bought a Rose 365, same pistol that my wife has. I'm a Glock guy, so that's a big contention in my household. But like, I said, hey, for my course, you need your pistol, 2 mags, 150 rounds, and an outside the waistband holster. Well, what's a nice outside the waistband holster?
Yep.
Well, let me send you some links. Here's the one I would pick. Da, 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 da. So I think the lack of knowledge goes to that fear. And so being able, for guys like us, being able to show, especially you, Alicia, as a strong woman, showing that it's not as scary as everybody thinks.
If I can do it,
Sorry, Denver.
y'all can do it. Here's I'm a tiny little lady. I'm literally 4'11" and almost 5 feet tall. I'm almost
Yeah, but you're
5 feet tall.
6'8" in spirit.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. But I carry big guns, and I think a lot of misconception is when it comes to women, is they want to put the tiny little guns in their hand. They want to tell them the limitations that they have. Oh, put it in your purse. The presence of a firearm doesn't make you safer. The skill set does. Your mind is the weapon. Your gun is the tool. And I want people to understand that. Like, I would rather you spend a good amount of money on a quality firearm and reach out to people like myself, to Marc, and a network of people that we have, buy a quality firearm and spend the rest of that money in training. Instead of having an arsenal full of guns you don't know how to shoot, have one tool that you know how to wield, and you can make something happen, and you could place shots downrange, and you have the confidence in that gun feels like it's a part of you. It should be your best friend.
Yeah.
And I would even say it's not just a shooting piece. Shooting's easy. Once you get it down and you continue to shoot, but it's also the gun handling piece. I feel you, brother. But no, it's the gun handling piece. And that's why we offer other courses, because, going to a range and standing static and shooting, while very, very important, in defensive shooting, it's the gun handling skills that you have to have when it's absolute chaos.
Yeah.
And
Static shooting is not going to help prepare you for the stresses of someone trying to kill you.
And I stole this from Mike Panone at CTC Solutions. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level you're training. So I didn't come up with that. I'm not that smart. He did, and I think it's genius. So whether you're
really
dry
cool
firing
dude.
at home, oh man, he's awesome. I've gotten to speak with him. He's a really great guy. He's a Green Beret too. But dry firing at home, if you can't get to the range, because now bullets are about to get really expensive.
Yep.
If you're dry firing at home, and then getting to the range, taking quality courses to progress in your firearms training life, and then here's the key: continue to train that.
Do it.
Continue. Yeah, because if you come to I68 and you pay all this money for training, and it's the only time you do it, it's a waste of money. It really is. You have to be able to make that part of your, maybe not everyday life, maybe a weekly life, or a monthly life, but get your hands on your firearm, either live firing or dry firing. So it makes your training sessions when you go to the range much more beneficial.
And get a quality instructor that teaches you how to dry fire. So you're not just doing goofy stuff and you think you're training, and then you get to the range and you're fishing poling it and flagging everybody to the left of you and all this nonsense.
Absolutely.
Learn how to do these things with someone who knows how to do them first. Find a mentor who's going to guide you.
Right. John Wick would have been dead in real life.
Oh, 100%.
We didn't have
I mean, he's a great shooter. Keanu Reeves is a great shooter in real life, but a lot of people see those types of movies and they think
it's
that
real.
That's how you're going to operate unless you're an actual operator like Marc is here, and you're used to a high stress situation where people are actually firing at you. The first time you're in a firefight, you don't know what the hell's going on. And so, especially when you start to see people get shot, it's a wild experience.
And you get that tunnel vision and you zone out. Like, there's so many different ways people react to stress. There's people who posture, there's people who freeze, there's people who lose it. You don't understand what it's like to have a gun going off with no ear pro or eye pro and blowing your eardrums.
I'll tell you a little secret. There is no such thing as special forces techniques when it comes to shooting. No such thing. But what the special operations community is really, really good at are the basics. Absolutely. They are really good at the basics. And so when it is time, when that fight or flight kicks in, they're thinking about other stuff, and the shooting piece is muscle memory anyway, because they've done it over and over and over and over again.
So we're being told it's time to go.
Right.
So it's the end. It's that time. This is why I love this show, is because we have great people we could have real conversations with, and it flows so easily. It makes me very happy. Closing statements?
Yeah, I just want to share one thing with you guys. So I got an email from somebody that received information from Representative Max Brooks, who's a Colorado State Senator.
I love Max Brooks. He's really nice. He spoke at our rally.
Absolutely. Great person right here. So he said Senate Bill 25003 narrowly passed the House and has returned to the Senate. I offered a resolution and delivered it to the Senate requesting the Colorado Supreme Court's opinion on the bill's constitutionality. I actually have a link to the document. So he has requested that the Senate approves SB 25003 go before the Colorado Supreme Court to see if it's actually constitutional according to the Colorado Constitution, because we have Article 2, Section 13, which this goes very much against. So from what I'm gathering, expect for tomorrow there's going to be 2 votes on SB 25003. One is going to be, does this go in front of the Colorado Supreme Court? And then the other one will be, does the Senate accept the amendments? So just be aware of that information.
So thank you, Pin King, again. That was really awesome. One of the things that I wanted to touch on, Marc will let you have the final statement as our guest, since you have sanctuary here, is just to make some people aware of some cool stuff. One, we have an event, 2 events actually coming up quite quickly. On April 5th, the Second Syndicate is hosting Lily Tang Williams for a fundraiser event. It is literally a fundraiser. So the Second Syndicate, Teddy and I, Spartan Defense and I have created this company to be Colorado's grassroots 2A movement. Well, we need help. We need the people. We need your money. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to have some really awesome giveaways at the gallery April 5th, the gallery in Lakewood, Colorado. So we're going to have a range day there. We're going to have the platypuses out. We're going to have the aliens on lane for you to shoot. We're going to have some really dope suppressors from Replicator that you can shoot. We're going to have the new Great Lakes 2011 that they just came out with, courtesy of High Mountain Firearms, and some really, really cool high-end handguns that you guys could come out. We encourage you to buy that range day ticket on the Eventbrite. You can find that at the Second Syndicate website. You can find that at all our socials as well. We also have Lily Tang Williams. If you guys aren't familiar with who she is a badass. She is a refugee that came to America who survived Chinese Mao communism, came here and took up arms, and she fights very, very hard. You should Google the viral video of her and David Hogg and how she totally destroys him in the narrative of gun control. So please come out and support that. We are going to be raffling off, or giving away, not a raffle. We are going to be giving away a range bag. We're going to be giving away some optics. We're going to be giving away some cool Vertex bags, and also a firearm. So you should come out and support us. Every purchase of a ticket helps fund more of this organization that we're putting together, as well as help Lily with her congressional campaign. We also have Staccato Range Day on April 6th at Pikes Peak Range in Colorado Springs, which is the next day. You can go onto the Eventbrite for Spartan Defense as well, or come to Spartan Events and sign up for that range day to shoot as all the staccatos that you want on April 6th. And that's only a week away, so check that out.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I just want to say one thing to all my freedom fighters, my resistance warriors out there. Wolverines!
I love it.
I'll see you guys tomorrow.
So, Marc, would you like to share? We always have everybody close out with a quote that they love, and also, what is your favorite gun?
All right. So I will say this. So it's not quote, it's scripture. So I68 stands for Isaiah 6:8. And that scripture is, and the Lord asked, who shall go? Who shall I send for me? And I said, here I am, send me.
Oh, that's
and
beautiful.
so that is what I68 stands for. And my favorite gun is the 1911 pistol. It is the best gun. I wish. Yeah, there's no trigger set. And then I'll pick one thing. We are having our second annual I68 Valkyries women's only pistol competition, June 21st. We're looking for sponsors. No experience is needed. All you need to know is that this type of competition is for people that don't know, have never competed before. It's for a great time. Thank you for the Special Forces Foundation for sponsoring that event. This is their second year. And thank you, Alicia, Thank you to Spartan Defense for having me on.
Thank you.
For our Hounds and Hollow Points fundraiser we do for Victory Service Dogs, Spartan Defense has donated the top prizes, 2 pistols per event for the last 2 years. Teddy, you're
Thank you,
amazing.
Teddy.
Thank
For
you
real.
so much.
I love me some Teddy and Roe.
Yeah,
Love
and
me some
thank
Teddy
you so
and
much for having me. It's been an
For
honor.
sure. So I want to say also thank you to you guys. Thank you. And thank you. Because this is why we do this, is to create this network. We were talking about it offline that there's a lot of gatekeeping in this industry where we don't want to see each other succeed or people hinder each other. And that's not what this is. Literally, he has his own YouTube show. He has a lot of the same things we do. And instead of hating or being inconclusive, it's like, oh, blah, 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 or putting him down and like, you know what? Let's join forces. Let's help each other. Let's educate each other. I'm an educator. You're an educator. This is how we grow and this is how we build this community, is by creating a network of like-minded individuals and giving the opportunity for the people to make the choice of who they resonate with. So thank you very much. Shout out to Teddy and Road. Thank you to my Spartan team. And we will see you guys next week on